The fire burned low in the great hall, its golden light dancing across the stone walls as the night deepened outside. Beyond the castle, the wind whispered through the forests of Europe, carrying with it stories far older than kings and kingdoms. And among those stories was the beginning of Marrok. Long before fear took his name and turned it into legend, Marrok was simply a boy. He was born in a time when Europe was a patchwork of warring kingdoms, where banners rose and fell like tides, and the strength of a man's arm could shape the fate of thousands. His home was a proud stone castle perched on a hill, overlooking valleys of green and rivers that shimmered like silver beneath the sun. His family was noble old blood, respected, though not the richest in the realm. His father was a stern lord, a man of iron discipline and few words, but not without honor. His mother, gentle yet wise, carried warmth into the cold halls of stone, her voice often the only softness in Marrok's early years. He had brothers who trained endlessly for glory, and sisters who moved like quiet shadows through the court, learning their own roles in a world ruled by power and alliances. As a child, Marrok ran through the castle corridors with laughter echoing behind him, wooden swords clashing against his brothers in playful battles that felt as serious as war. But childhood in such a place never lasted long. By the age of 7, he was no longer simply a boy. He became a page. He learned to serve before he could command. He polished armor until it shone like mirrors, carried messages, poured wine at long feasts, and stood silently as knights spoke of war, honor, and death. He watched everything. He remembered everything. His first lessons with a real sword came soon after. The blade felt heavy in his hands at first, too large, too unforgiving. But Marrok was not one to yield. Day after day, under the watchful eye of seasoned warriors, he trained until his arms trembled and his breath came ragged. Slowly, the sword began to feel like part of him, an extension of his will. When he rode beside his father on hunts, he saw another side of the world. The forests stretched endlessly, ancient and alive. Deer moved like ghosts between the trees, and wolves watched from the shadows with eyes that gleamed in the dark. His father taught him patience, silence, and respect for the hunt was not merely killing, but understanding. Every creature fights to live. His father once told him, "Never forget that." Years passed, and the boy became a squire. Now he trained not just to learn, but to become. He cared for a knight's armor, rode into dangerous lands, and witnessed the brutal truth of battle. War was nothing like the stories sung in halls. It was mud, blood, screams, and the clash of steel beneath gray skies. His first real battle came sooner than expected. Raiders had crossed into their land's merciless men who burned villages and left nothing but ash behind. Marrok rode with his lord, heart pounding like a drum in his chest. When the fighting began, fear gripped him, but only for a moment. Then instinct took over. He fought, clumsy at first, then fierce. He saw a man fall before him, felt the shock of steel striking steel, heard the cries of wounded soldiers, and somehow he survived. That day changed him. Not long after, beneath the gaze of nobles and warriors, he was knighted. The sword tapped his shoulders, and with it came a new name, Sir Marrok. He swore loyalty to his king, a ruler both ambitious and wary, for the politics of the time were as dangerous as any battlefield. Alliances shifted like sand. Enemies smiled before they struck, and knights like Marrok were sent where the crown needed strength. He proved himself again and again. Campaign after campaign, he rode Hunters feared him, soldiers followed him. Stories began to spread of a knight who did not retreat, who stood firm even when death seemed certain. But it was not war that would change his fate. It was something far older. Whispers began in the villages near the royal forest. People vanished. Livestock was found torn apart. Tracks were discovered too large for any known wolf. The elders spoke of an ancient spirit, something that had walked the forests long before men built castles. Most dismissed it as fear, but fear has a way of growing. One night, summoned before the king, Marrok was given a task unlike any other. "You have faced men," the king said, his voice heavy with unease. "Now you will face what lurks beyond them." Marrok did not refuse. He rode alone into the forbidden forest. The trees grew thicker as he ventured deeper, their branches twisting like claws against the sky. The air was colder there, heavier. Even the sounds of the world seemed to fade, as if the forest itself was watching. Then he saw it. A wolf. But no ordinary beast. It stood larger than any horse, its fur black as night, its eyes burning with an unnatural intelligence. It did not flee. It did not growl. It simply watched him. For a long moment, neither moved. Then the hunt began. Marrok fought with everything he had. Steel flashed, the beast moved with terrifying speed, and the forest echoed with the sounds of their battle. He struck it once, twice, but the wolf did not fall. It lunged. Pain exploded through him as its jaws closed around his arm, its teeth sinking deep. For a heartbeat, the world went silent. Then something inside him ignited with a roar. Marrok drove his blade forward with all his strength. The wolf staggered and fell. The forest became still. Breathing heavily, wounded and trembling, Marrok stood over the creature. Its eyes dimmed, but even in death, they seemed knowing. The victory should have felt glorious, but it did not. As the night fell and the first full moon rose into the sky, something began to change. The wound burned not like any injury he had ever known. It spread through him, deeper than flesh, deeper than bone. Marrok fell to his knees beneath the silver light, and far away, beyond the castle walls, beyond the kingdoms of men, a howl rose into the night. The night did not end when the howl faded. It lingered, heavy, watchful, like the world itself was holding its breath. Marrok lay upon the cold forest ground, his body trembling beneath the pale glow of the full moon. The wound on his arm pulsed with a heat that no fire could match. It was not pain alone. It was something alive, something moving within him, threading through his veins like liquid flame. He tried to rise, but his strength betrayed him. His breath came sharp and uneven. The scent of the forest flooded his senses, earth bark, distant water, and something else, something overwhelming. He could smell every living thing around him, as if the world had suddenly drawn closer, sharper, louder. Too loud. He pressed his hands to his head, but it did nothing to silence the storm rising inside him. Then came the first crack, a sound like breaking. Wood echoed through the trees. Marrok screamed. His body arched violently as his bones began to shift beneath his skin. Muscles twisted, stretched, reshaped. His fingers clawed at the dirt as his nails lengthened, darkened, hardened into something no longer human. The transformation did not come gently. It tore through him. His spine bent, forcing him onto all fours. His jaw tightened, then pushed forward with a sickening force, teeth sharpening, splitting his gums as they grew into fangs. His vision blurred, then snapped into terrifying clarity. The world changed. Every shadow moved. Every heartbeat echoed, every scent became a map, and then, silence not fallen, something else now stood. A creature of muscle and darkness, its fur massive, its fur black as the night sky, its chest rose and fell with slow, powerful breaths, its eyes burning away reflected the moonlight. It was not entirely beast, not entirely man, it was both. For a moment, it simply stood there, as if testing the weight of its own existence. Then instinct took hold. It ran through the forest. It moved like a storm-given form, faster than any horse, silent despite its size. Trees blurred past, the ground trembled beneath its stride, and within that monstrous body, Marrok still existed, buried beneath instinct, struggling to understand what he had become. Hunger came next, not the hunger of a man, but something deeper, wilder. The scent of deer reached him first. Without thought, he followed. The chase was swift. The creature leaped, struck, and brought its prey down with terrifying ease. Warm blood filled its mouth, and for a moment, the hunger quieted. But with that silence came something else. Awareness. The creature stepped back, its breathing slowing. It looked down at what it had done, and somewhere inside, Marrok recoiled. This was no hunt. This was something else entirely. The night stretched on, and the beast wandered, caught between instinct and thought, between savagery and something that refused to disappear. Then came a sound that changed everything. Voices, human. Travelers lost, perhaps moving along the edge of the forest. Their laughter was nervous, their torches flickering in the dark. The beast froze inside. Marrok screamed. Go back, run, leave, but the scent of them warm, alive pulled at the creature with unbearable force. It stepped forward, one branch snapped beneath its weight. The voices stopped. Did you hear that? One of them whispered. The torchlight shifted, trembling. Marrok fought harder than he ever had in any battle. This was not an enemy he could strike. This was himself. The creature's muscles tensed, ready to lunge, but something held it back. A memory, a voice, his father's words echoing through the storm. Every creature fights to live. The beast shuddered, then with a sudden, violent turn, it fled. It ran deeper into the forest, away from the humans, away from the temptation, away from the line it could never cross. Hours passed, the moon began to fall, and with it, the strength of the beast. Pain returned, different now, but no less brutal. The massive form began to shrink, bones cracking once more, muscles collapsing inward. Fur receded, claws became fingers again. Fur receded. Claws became fingers again. Marrok collapsed against the roots of an ancient tree. When dawn finally broke, he lay there human once more, but forever changed. His body was covered in dirt and blood. His arms still bore the mark of the bite, though it now looked different, darker, like something that would never truly heal. He stared at his hands, shaking. He remembered everything. The hunt, the kill, the hunger, the near loss of control. A truth settled over him like a shadow that would never lift. He had not simply survived the beast, he had become it. When he returned to the castle days later, no one spoke of what they saw in his eyes, but they felt it. The fearless night had changed. Something colder now lived behind his gaze, something watchful. Strange things followed. Animals avoided him. Dogs whimpered when he passed. Every sound stirred him, every scent called to him, and as the days passed, one thought grew stronger than all others. The moon would rise again, and when it did, he did not know if he would be strong enough to resist far beyond the castle walls. Deep within the forest, where the great black wolf had fallen, the wind moved softly through the trees, and if one listened closely, it almost sounded like laughter.